I never thought I'd be thanking someone who threatened my job, but that moment changed everything for me and my daughter. James Wilson's voice breaks slightly as he looks directly into the camera, his eyes reflecting both pain and triumph. If you've ever felt like the world was stacked against you, or that one more challenge might break you, this story might just give you the strength to keep going. Hit that like button and subscribe to see more real stories that remind us of the power of dignity in the face of adversity. The morning had started like any other for James Wilson. The alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., giving him just enough time to prepare lunch for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, before waking her for school. The apartment was small but clean, with crayon drawings decorating the refrigerator and a collection of well-worn children's books stacked neatly on the coffee table. It had been just the two of them for 3 years now, since cancer took his wife Emily far too young. James moved through their morning routine with practiced efficiency. He gently roused Lily, helped her pick out clothes, and made sure she ate something substantial for breakfast while he packed her backpack. All the while, anxiety gnawed at his stomach. Today was his 3-month performance review at Meridian Technologies, where he'd been hired as an entry-level data analyst. The job paid just enough to cover their expenses and offered the healthcare benefits Lily needed for her asthma medication. "Daddy, you forgot to sign my permission slip," Lily reminded him, her small voice pulling him from his thoughts. She pushed a crumpled paper across the table, her eyes wide with concern. "It's for the aquarium trip next week. Ms. Peterson says no signature means no trip." James quickly signed the form, tucking it safely into her folder. "There you go, sweetie. You're all set to see those fish." He checked his watch and felt his heart rate quicken. They were running late, and being late today of all days could be disastrous. The drive to Lily's school was tense, traffic moving at an agonizing crawl. James drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, calculating how much time he had left to make it to work before his 8:30 a.m. review with Victoria Hargrove, the notoriously demanding department head. "Daddy, are you mad?" Lily asked quietly from the back seat, her reflection in the rearview mirror showing furrowed brows. James softened immediately. "No, honey, not at all. Just thinking about work stuff." "Is it because of the mean lady who doesn't like when you have to leave for my doctor appointments?" James winced. He hadn't realized Lily had picked up on the tension. Victoria had made several pointed comments about his excessive personal time over the past 3 months, despite James working through lunches and staying late to compensate for the hours he missed when Lily needed him. "Ms. Hargrove isn't mean, Lily. She just has a different way of looking at things," he explained, though the words felt hollow even to him. After dropping Lily off with just enough time for a quick hug and an "I love you," James raced to the office building, finding a parking spot far from the entrance. He jogged across the lot, his worn dress shoes slipping slightly on the morning dew-covered pavement. By the time he reached his desk, it was 8:27 a.m. 3 minutes to spare. He quickly logged into his computer and pulled up the presentation he'd stayed up until 2 a.m. perfecting. The data analysis project had been assigned to him as a test of his capabilities, and he'd poured everything into making it flawless. This job wasn't just a paycheck, it was stability for Lily, a chance to rebuild their lives after Emily's death had left them emotionally and financially devastated. At precisely 8:30, Victoria Hargrove's sharp voice cut through the quiet hum of the office. "Wilson. My office." James grabbed his tablet and followed her into the glass-walled conference room. Victoria was an imposing figure despite her small stature, impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun. She didn't look up from her computer as James took a seat across from her. "I'll be frank, Wilson. Your numbers are good. Your analysis is thorough. But your commitment to this company is questionable at best." She finally looked up, her steel-gray eyes meeting his. "You've taken personal time on 7 separate occasions in 3 months. That's excessive by any standard." James felt heat rise to his face. "Ms. Hargrove, as I've explained, I'm a single father. My daughter has. Yes, yes, I'm aware of your situation, she cut him off with a dismissive wave. But Meridian needs employees who can prioritize their professional responsibilities. We're not a charity, Wilson. The word stung, but James maintained his composure. I understand. I've made up all the hours I've missed by working through lunches and staying late. The Donovan project was completed 2 days ahead of schedule, and... That's the bare minimum expected, Victoria interrupted again. Not cause for celebration. She turned her attention to her computer screen, scrolling through what James assumed was his personnel file. The silence stretched uncomfortably as she reviewed the information, occasionally making small humming sounds that did nothing to ease his anxiety. One more thing, she finally said, looking up. There's a mandatory team-building retreat next weekend. Saturday and Sunday. All department employees are required to attend. James felt his stomach drop. Next weekend? I'm sorry, but I can't attend. My daughter has. If you peek at your personal calendar one more time instead of prioritizing this company's needs, you're fired, Wilson. Victoria's voice was cold, matter-of-fact. Find childcare. Make arrangements. This isn't negotiable. In that moment, something shifted inside James. The constant struggle of the past 3 years, the grief, the financial hardship, the endless juggling act of being both mother and father to Lily while trying to rebuild a career, crystallized into a sudden clarity. He thought of Lily's small face that morning, worried about her permission slip and sensing her father's stress. He thought of the promises he'd made to Emily in her final days, that he would always put their daughter first. When he spoke, his voice was calm, steady, and carried a quiet dignity that seemed to fill the room. Ms. Hargrove, I respect this company and the opportunity I've been given. I've worked diligently to exceed expectations in my role here. But I made a promise to my late wife that I would never let our daughter feel like she comes second to anything, including my job. He paused, meeting Victoria's surprised gaze. My daughter has her spring recital that weekend. She's been practicing for months, and I promised I'd be there. So if keeping that promise means losing this job, then I accept that consequence. Victoria stared at him, clearly not expecting this response. For the first time since he'd known her, she seemed at a loss for words. I don't mean any disrespect, James continued, his voice still measured. But I've learned that some things, once lost, can never be replaced. My daughter will only have one childhood. I can find another job if necessary, but I can't get back these years with her. The silence that followed was profound. Victoria's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, something unreadable flickering across her features. She closed her laptop slowly. My father was a corporate attorney, she said finally, her voice different somehow, softer, less clipped. He never missed a meeting, never took a day off. The firm named a conference room after him when he retired. She looked down at her perfectly manicured hands. He also missed every school play, every soccer game, every birthday party. When he died 5 years ago, I realized I had no real memories with him, just a childhood full of his absences. James remained silent, unsure where this unexpected confession was leading. The retreat, Victoria continued after a moment, can be recorded for those who cannot attend due to family obligations. I'll make sure you receive all the materials. She reopened her laptop, typing something quickly. And your performance review is satisfactory. The Donovan project was impressive. Your attention to detail is noted. James blinked, trying to process this sudden shift. Thank you, Ms. Hargrove. Victoria, she corrected, still typing. And I'm implementing a new flexible work arrangement pilot program. You'll be the first participant. As long as your projects are completed on schedule and you maintain your current quality of work, you may adjust your hours as needed for your daughter's appointments. She looked up, her expression professional but somehow softer. Consider it a test case for potential company-wide implementation. The relief that washed over James was so intense he had to take a deep breath to steady himself. I don't know what to say. Say you'll have that quarterly projection report on my desk by Wednesday, Victoria replied, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. And perhaps bring in one of those drawings from your refrigerator for my office. It could use some color. 3 months later, James sat in the same conference room, but everything had changed. The flexible work arrangement had been so successful that Victoria had expanded it to the entire department, resulting in higher productivity and improved morale. James had been promoted to team lead, with a salary increase that finally allowed him to move Lily to a better apartment closer to her school. But the most significant change wasn't professional. It was the weight that had lifted from his shoulders, the constant fear of having to choose between being a good father and being a good employee. Now, he could be both. On Lily's 9th birthday, Victoria surprised them both by appearing at the small party James had organized at the local park, a wrapped gift in hand. As Lily excitedly tore into the package to reveal a telescope, for a girl who wants to see everything the world has to offer, Victoria's card read, James caught the older woman's eye and nodded his thanks. You know, Victoria said quietly as they watched Lily show her new treasure to her friends, that day in my office, when you chose your daughter over your job, it made me reevaluate a lot of things. Sometimes the people we think are challenging us are actually giving us the opportunity to remember what matters most. James smiled. Sometimes standing your ground with dignity is the only way forward. Indeed, Victoria agreed. And sometimes being wrong is the first step to getting it right. As the seasons changed, so did Meridian Technologies. Victoria's flexible work program became a model for other departments, and eventually, other companies in the industry. James's team consistently outperformed expectations, proving that compassionate leadership and work-life balance weren't just feel-good concepts but sound business strategies. For Lily, the changes were equally profound. The constant worry that had shadowed her young face began to fade. Her father was present not just physically but emotionally, no longer perpetually exhausted and stressed. She flourished in school, her confidence growing as her home life stabilized. One evening, as James helped Lily with her homework at their kitchen table, she looked up suddenly. Daddy, remember when you were always scared about your job? James nodded, surprised by the observation. I do. You're not scared anymore, she stated matter-of-factly. And you smile a lot more now. That's true, he acknowledged, touched by her perception. I learned something important that day with Ms. Victoria. What? Lily asked, genuinely curious. James thought for a moment, wanting to express it in terms his daughter would understand. I learned that sometimes, when you stand up for what's truly important with kindness and respect, you give other people the chance to remember what's important to them too. Lily considered this, her small face serious. Like when I told Jenny to stop making fun of Max's stutter, and then she remembered how she felt when people laughed at her glasses? Exactly like that, James said, amazed at his daughter's wisdom. Sometimes courage is contagious. A year after that fateful performance review, Meridian Technologies was featured in a business magazine for its innovative approach to work-life balance and the resulting boost in productivity and employee retention. The article included a photo of Victoria and James standing side by side, both looking confident and at ease. The turning point, Victoria was quoted in the article, came when an employee had the courage to remind me that our humanity doesn't stop at the office door. Sometimes the best business decisions come from remembering that we're people first, professionals second. James kept a copy of that magazine, not out of pride, but as a reminder that standing in your truth with dignity can create ripples that extend far beyond your own life. That sometimes, the most powerful response to pressure isn't anger or capitulation, but calm conviction. On the anniversary of that day, James received an email from Victoria with a simple message: "Thank you for having the courage to peek at what matters most." It changed everything, for all of us. As James finishes telling his story to the camera, he smiles gently. Sometimes life puts us in impossible situations where it seems like we have to choose between our responsibilities and our values. But I learned that day that when you respond to difficulty with dignity and clarity about what matters most, you create space for unexpected grace. My daughter taught me that courage isn't about never being afraid, it's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. He pauses, emotion evident in his eyes. If you're facing an impossible choice right now, remember, stand in your truth with kindness. Speak your needs with respect. And trust that sometimes, the person who seems to be your biggest obstacle might just be waiting for permission to be your greatest ally. The screen fades to a shot of James and Lily walking hand in hand through a park, both laughing at something shared between them. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe for more real stories about finding strength in our most challenging moments. And remember, sometimes the most powerful words aren't, "I quit," or "I'll comply," but simply, "This is what matters to me, and I stand by it with respect."